Yeah, thank you, Kai. Well, as one of the objectives of this workshop is to review the involvement of local communities in the management of World Heritage Sites, I wanted to share with you the results of a content analysis that I applied to 19 nomination dossiers and management plans of the cultural sites that were added to the World Heritage List in 2014. And, well, there is an article on the way, so, and some of you have seen it already. So I will be brief about this. For UNESCO, the inclusion of local communities and their sustainable development are key elements of contemporary heritage management practices. UNESCO embraced the concept of social responsibility already decades ago in its policies and programs, as we already heard. The United Nations Human Rights Council even recommended in 2011 that concerned communities should be invited to actively participate in the whole process of selection, interpretation, preservation and development of cultural heritage. And it suggested to UNESCO not to grant inscription to cultural heritage sites without the free, prior and informed consent of the concerned communities. So the need to pay attention to the people who may be affected by heritage management activities is clear. But I wanted to see what it actually means within the context of today's management of World Heritage Sites. So my objective with the content analysis, therefore, was to gain insight into the degree to which the social responsibility is included in these documents today. The analysis first involved the counting of keywords, and these words were all derived from the UNESCO policy documents. And this was in most cases followed by an interpretation of the context in which these words are being used. And with concern to the results, I will only discuss the total occurrences of keywords, not individual dossiers, as it's not my intention with this study to judge individual nominations of state parties. So the first value, or the first word that was included in the analysis was social value. The nomination dossiers talk a lot about values, but social value turned out to be scarcely used, only 70 times. And 80% of this was found in only 3 of the dossiers. And the majority of 10 dossiers has no reference at all to social values. The value that was mentioned most is universal value, not surprisingly. This suggests that the dossiers are primarily focused on the values the sites have in a wider context and for a universal audience. This is probably caused by the fact that it is crucial for nomination dossiers to highlight, of course, the universal value of a site in order to acquire a World Heritage status. Second, the dossiers were scanned for specific social objectives, such as social cohesion and social inclusion. Again, most dossiers do not use these words. Social responsibility is mentioned in only 1 dossier and social inclusion in only 2. Social cohesion in 6, a little bit more. References to the people whom the heritage concern are much more abundantly present. In 1,044 counts were found for the word community, and it is being used in all dossiers. In this case, however, it was important to look at the context in which the word is being used, as many references occur in relation to the function that the nomination site had for its communities in history. 5 dossiers do not use the word in relation to present-day communities. And this relatively limited focus in many dossiers on the present-day local community is also clear when we look for specific references to local community. It is missing in 5 of these dossiers. So that's 26%. Then I looked for indications of the informed consent of the concerned communities, as the United Nations Human Rights Council was talking about. I searched for consultation, cooperation and participation. At first sight, a lot of consultation seems to be going on. However, the context analysis showed that a large number of these occurrences is in the national laws and international regulations that were included in the dossiers. Moreover, the group that is being consulted most is the authorities. Participation gets even less attention. In particular, citizen participation and public participation and local participation. They are words that these dossiers do not use a lot. In fact, they all belong to the top 10 of words used least in the whole of the sample. I also looked at the degree to which the impact of the nomination on the local community is explicitly taken into account. And across the board, the word impact occurs a lot. It's in the top 10 of words mentioned most. But this concerns primarily the impact that activities and developments may have on the heritage and on the outstanding universal value of the site. The social or economic impact that a World Heritage Site can have in relation to present-day communities gets little attention, and 11 dossiers do not mention it at all. Well, as the issue of sustainability is a hot topic, it's not surprising that this is mentioned a lot in these dossiers. But it was surprising that only 16% of these occurrences relate to the social or economic development of local communities. Most references relate to the sustainable conservation of the World Heritage Sites. The word is also very frequently used in an undefined and indistinct way, so merely, as I concluded, as a meaningless buzzword. Then, next, I looked for the attention for the individual instead of for the whole community. The words that were included were capacity building, employment, jobs, and job generation. These aspects are clearly not abundantly present in the nominations either. Let's see. Where are they? Capacity building mostly concerns the training of staff members of heritage organizations, not helping local communities to benefit from tourism, for example. Okay. The dossiers also talk about employment and jobs, but again, this relates mainly to heritage managers and other conservation-related staff. There is little attention for the creation of jobs for the people living at the heritage sites. And the word job generation is missing in all but one dossier. Finally, I looked for quality of life, well-being, and personal development. And again, these words do not occur a lot. Quality of life appears 86 times and well-being 26 times. But in none of the dossiers a reference was made to activities that relate to the personal development of individuals. Well then, for reasons of comparison, words like management, conservation, tourism and museum were counted too. And it shows that these words are abundantly present in the dossiers. In fact, they are clearly at the top of the word count list. This is of course no surprise. It is however striking to see the huge difference in the level of attention that is paid to these aspects and to the things that relate to social involvement. So this suggests that there is most of all an internal focus, a focus on the preservation and management of the sites, of course, and on the tourism that is expected to develop, rather than on the local communities which the heritage concerns. So, to conclude, I think we can say that while the heritage management sector is already talking for decades about social responsibility and local development in the context of World Heritage Sites, heritage practitioners who prepare World Heritage nominations do not seem very familiar yet with the implementation of the social responsibility in their plans. This content analysis shows that the majority does not have explicit references to social values. The majority does not even refer to the word community participation. I think that UNESCO should wonder to what degree its inscriptions to the World Heritage List comply with the advice of the Human Rights Council, that they ought to be based on the free, prior and informed consent of the concerned communities. With more than 2/3 not referring to any consultation with the local communities, this can be doubted. I also think that if UNESCO really values its social objectives, and not just as buzzwords that need to be included in policies and plans, it could consider to ask its evaluation committees to take the social aspect for local communities much more into account in their assessments of World Heritage nominations. And this is not to bash UNESCO, but I do think that they could do a little bit more here. Thank you.
Do you have some questions for Monique? Or? Yes, please.
Thank you, Monique. Very interesting talk. I have one minor question about this expression quality of life. You were very brief about this. Could you say something more about how this expression is being used in the documents, quality of life? Do you know why I ask this?
I would really have to go back to the article. I don't know at the moment in what particular context it was being used, but I assume it also has a lot to do with, well, that it is only a buzzword, that we are supposed to refer to that now, but it does not really have a content.
Yes, please.
My question is just actually maybe it's worth looking at UNESCO, kind of dismantling UNESCO a little bit and looking at the educational program. Are they actually using other kinds of words there than they actually use in World Heritage Sites? And how is World Heritage Sites related to, or the World Heritage related to UNESCO program, education?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how is this connected? Because I imagine they talk about community.
I didn't look into that.
No,
And this is only just, of course, a paper exercise, and we would really need to look also at what is happening in practice on the ground. But this was just for myself also to get an impression of, well, what does it entail at the moment, and do we already integrate these things in the nominations, and does it really have a content, actually?
Thank you so much, Monique, because these are things that I suspected were probably lacking, but it's good to see on a paper that is
Just to add something on that, it looks like the World Heritage Center, the World Heritage nomination procedure is something quite hermetic inside UNESCO itself, inside UNESCO regulations. So it's quite a branch of UNESCO that has so many political implications, and of course economical implications, that is a little bit aside from the other programs that are more framework programs. Looks like that, looks a little bit like this. But Jan will tell us a little bit. Next, please.
Yes, thank you, Monique, for the presentation. I like it very much, but at the same time, I have critical doubts in my mind.
Of course, I expected.
It's more like this. There's a positive ethical notion about social value and about the communities. But the community and social value are not always the right. So how do you deal with that? So I think that I know what you're aiming at. It's important that the social community and the social value are at stake. But what if the social community or the social value is not what archaeologists or what maybe the future need?
Might be the what? Sorry?
The future.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so, for example, you said there was no relation with the value of the present day or something. But I can imagine that you do something that's not of value for today, but maybe for the future. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's less worthwhile or something. So how do you deal with that? I know what you're aiming at, and I agree with that, but at the same time there are other things and other levels also involved.
Of course, yes, no. But it was just to
Yeah, I know what you mean,
yeah.
but it's just,
yeah,
you have to think about it as
absolutely,
well.
yeah.
Because otherwise we are a populist,
Mhm.
only valuing what's at stake at the moment.
Well,
And the last
Point
tricky
taken.
question: do you remember which dossier has this job generation comment? No.
not by heart, no. I
Okay.
would have to look into it.
We'll have a look. Another comment? Question? Was here? Frederic, of course.
No.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you very much, Mike.